Please, let me go. Have mercy.
Does the Fire Nation let people go? Does the Fire Nation have mercy? Jet, he's just an old man. Have you forgotten that the Fire Nation killed your mother? Remember why you fight.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here. Jet. Team Avatar travels on foot through a forest controlled by the Fire Nation, hoping this will help them avoid being seen. Here they meet Jet and his freedom fighters, a group of kids dedicated to causing trouble to the locals.
They took over a nearby Earth Kingdom town a few years back.
We've been ambushing their troops, cutting off their supply lines, and doing anything we can to mess with them.
As they spend more time around Jet, a rift begins to form within the group. Sokka doesn't trust Jet and thinks he's unhinged, while Aang and Katara, who have been questioning Sokka's leadership skills lately, both do trust Jet and want to help him with his plans. Sokka is eventually proven right when it's revealed that Jet is planning to flood a nearby town, wiping out all the Fire Nation soldiers as well as any civilians. Welcome to the first Sokka episode. Well, technically the Warriors of Kyoshi had a Sokka story, but that was a B-plot and it was more about Sokka learning a lesson than anything else. This time around, Sokka is getting some appreciation and he's the main focus, which means I can finally dive into how I feel about his character. For the longest time, Sokka was my favorite character of AtLA. Not only do I love his sense of humor, but of all the characters, I see myself in Sokka more than anyone else. See, he's the oldest male child in a traditional tribe, and with that role comes certain responsibilities and expectations. He was expected to hunt, fight, and protect all of those under his care, specifically his sister. Despite not being the eldest child in my household, this was the role I was given growing up. From the first episode, I felt connected to Sokka. This scenario with Jet only deepened that connection. When I see Katara constantly mocking Sokka's efforts to live up to his father's expectations, I can't help but have flashbacks to my own childhood, where others belittled similar responsibilities that I had.
You're the leader? But your voice still cracks. Well, I don't know, Aang. Why don't you ask Sokka's instincts? They seem to know everything. We were relying on instincts.
You'll get yourself killed doing that.
I'm tired of carrying this pack.
You know who you should ask to carry it for a while? Sokka's instincts.
To see an episode that points out how Aang and Katara should be more appreciative of Sokka's contributions felt immensely cathartic for young me. It's often debated whether or not Sokka is the leader of Team Avatar, mainly because this episode kinda makes it seem like he is, but there is no leader in this group. If you want to get technical, Aang always gets the final decision since he's the Avatar and the rest are following his journey, but really everyone makes decisions as a group. The others do, however, tend to listen to Sokka more because he has more experience and usually takes charge during situations. It's interesting when you look at the show in hindsight and see that it took 10 episodes before it finally decided to go into detail about Sokka and his role. Anyone who's seen AtLA all the way through knows how important Sokka's character is, but I do know people who haven't, and because they've only seen a few episodes, they think Sokka is nothing more than a joke character. I know that he's technically the least important main character in regards to plot and you have to prioritize your pacing, but I can't help but feel a little salty about the lack of focus on him, even if it was ultimately the better decision. Alright, enough about Sokka, let's move on to the other two.
Sokka's still out there. He's our only chance.
Come on, Sokka. I'm sorry I ever doubted you.
While Aang is involved in this episode, Katara goes through the same journey he does and then some, so I'm going to be focusing on her. Once again, bringing up the pacing, this is the second anti-Katara episode in a row, my goodness gracious. In this episode, Katara has to choose between siding with Jet, who she not only has intense feelings for, but has also seen him proving himself to be a great leader, and her brother, who Katara is constantly mocking and doubting. With Jet being introduced, we get Katara's first real candidate as a love interest. I know Aang is there, but he hasn't officially realized his feelings for Katara yet, and Haru was nothing but a fanship that went nowhere. Sokka is the only boy in Katara's village her age, so logically this must be the first time she's ever showed interest in anybody. Katara learns that despite all his faults, Sokka has always been on her side. They might fight and bicker, but in the end, he's an ally she can rely on. After all, he's her brother. He spent his entire life looking out for her, even if he wasn't always the best at it or nice about it. When Jet reveals who he truly is, Katara realizes that she not only sided with an enemy, but in a way, she betrayed Sokka. When the climax of the episode happens, Aang and Katara's only hope is that Sokka will somehow pull a miracle out of his pocket, which he does, but can you imagine if Sokka didn't make it on time? Katara and Aang would have to live the rest of their lives knowing they helped drown an entire village full of innocent people, including children. Also, while we're here, Katara and Aang caused a problem that someone else came in and fixed.
I'm ready for the next
Girl has her
challenge.
ways.
One last thing about Katara that's worth mentioning is that the episode shows her flawlessly freezing water. It's somewhat sudden due to the fact that we haven't really seen her practicing freezing specifically since the series opener, but showing Katara constantly getting better at waterbending was very crucial in the first book. Alright, let's move on to the title character himself.
Down you go.
First things first, obviously Jet and the Freedom Fighters are inspired by Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. Dude is even using hook swords. That's clever. There's not really much to say there, just know that it's a thing. The Aang Gang has, in the past, encountered people on the opposite team who aren't necessarily enemies. Jet is their first iteration of someone on their team who isn't necessarily an ally. He's a dark reflection of our heroes, specifically Sokka. Just like everyone in the main group, his parents were killed by the Fire Nation, and he also wants to fight to get rid of them. Unlike the Boomerang Squad, however, Jet believes that the ends justify the means. His plan of killing off the civilians is AtLA's way of tackling one of the harsher sides of war, civilian casualties. Team Avatar takes the stance of it being wrong, and because they're presented as the good guys with the moral high ground, we can assume that's the stance the show is taking as well.
We could have freed this valley.
Who would be free? Everyone would be dead.
You traitor.
No, Jet. You became the traitor when you stopped protecting innocent people.
A part of me is like, hey, maybe they shouldn't have taken a side and just let the audience think for themselves, but it's a pretty obvious moral and does solidify the Aang Gang as the official good guys. Sure, they'll make mistakes and selfish decisions in the future, but we know they now have lines that they won't cross. Getting back to Jet, let's talk about how the story handles his character. Despite being a great fighter, his deadliest weapon is his charisma and intelligence. The boy is able to come up with well-calculated plans and convince others to put their faith in him, as well as make his enemies fear him. Notice how Jet doesn't lie to Team Avatar until after his mission with Sokka. He's completely open about who he is because he thinks the Boomerang Squad will side with him given they also want to stop the Fire Nation. However, once Sokka reveals that he isn't willing to attack an innocent even if they're Fire Nation, Jet knew he'd have to manipulate the Aang Gang if he wanted their help, so he immediately lies about the poison dagger as well as the forest getting burned. Sokka doesn't believe his lie because he saw Jet's cruelty with his own eyes, but Aang and Katara fall for it hook, line, and sinker. After this, Jet is non-stop with the lies, doing whatever it takes to get Katara and Aang to help him with his plan.
I'm sorry about how Sokka's been acting.
No worries. He already apologized.
Really? Sokka apologized?
I got the sense that maybe he talked to him or something.
Yeah, I did.
I guess something you said got through to him.
So obviously, AtLA has some amazing animation, art style, choreography, etc. However, this was the episode that made me stop and appreciate that. One afternoon, I was watching this episode for like the 920th time, and for some particular reason, when the Jet and Aang fight went off, it clicked in me just how much work went into making sure the audience was immersed. All in all, great episode that shows the moral line of the group as a whole and gives Sokka some much needed appreciation. This has been Shady Doorags. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.